Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at a watch that may be as good as a chronograph can get. This is the Roger Dubuis Hommage Chronograph, reference H40-56. 40 millimeters in 18-karat white gold, this watch embodies as much of Geneva high horology tradition as a younger Roger Dubuis could cram into the 40 millimeter gold case. Now, in 1995, Roger Dubuis and his business partners set up Dubuis' eponymous manufacture, becoming one of the pioneers of what's now known as independent horology. Now today those guys are like the star architects and the celebrity chefs. They have movies made about them, tribute books written in their honor, but back in 1995 it was downright risky and bold to break away from the major luxury groups and found an independent brand with your own coin, putting your own name at risk. Dubuis did it, and he wanted to pay homage, so to speak, to the influences, the mentors, the teachers, and the Geneva tradition that had inspired him to that exalted position within his trade. The Homage series, of which this is one of the finest examples, combines all of those traditions and influences into one compact and gorgeous haute de gamme package. Now, I want to show you some features of this watch before I put it on the wrist that really emphasize the level of attention to detail. The turbine-style pusher caps, the alternately brushed flanks of the case, and the polished tops of the bezel and lug tops, as well as the fact that the bezel itself is concave, sweeping upward from the case flank to the crystal. This is not like the contemporary Roger Dubuis, which are large, oversized, very much watches in the modern paradigm. This one is elegantly sized, perfect really, for a modern men's complication at 40 millimeters, very thin, beautifully proportioned with long, delicate, compound curvature lugs. This is the traditional picture of elegance. I'm going to get to that gorgeous salmon dial with its individually applied white gold elements in a moment, but first I'm going to put this watch on the wrist and focus on the feel, focus on the case, the strap, the buckle, the lugs. Very comfortable. Now, my wrist is 6 1/3 inches in circumference, 16 centimeters for those in the metric territories, such as Geneva, but the bottom line is that this watch is classically good looking. Inside is a La Manna 2300 series based Bausch, finished to Geneva seal standards, what Roger Dubuis calls the RD56 movement. Who else has used this base movement? Well, let's see. It was on the original Omega column wheel moon watch that went to the moon with Neil Armstrong, but I think you're going to be more intrigued by the fact that it's the same base movement also used by Patek Philippe, by Vacheron Constantin, by Breguet. If you're a fan of the Patek Philippe 5070, same movement, finished the same Geneva seal standard. Beautiful and beautiful to operate. It's a tactile pleasure, and I'll get to that in a moment. But what really sets this Hommage chronograph apart from the others, and it's not as though Dubuis made many of these, is the gorgeous metallic salmon bronze dial. It's almost halfway between pink gold and bronze, rich, lustrous. It's got a subtle gleam to it, neither matte nor metallic bright. It's not a sunburst. It's got a unique finish to it that's almost singular to this watch. The two sub-registers for small seconds at 9 o'clock and chronograph minutes at 3 are sunken into it to add depth. And then you have a minute track with individually polished dots, applied white gold Arabic numerals, and applied multifaceted stick indices for other hour markers, a tachometer scale at the outermost circumference, itself bounded by a gorgeous vintage-style railroad or sector track. Blued hands represent the chronograph functions. You can see the lancet hand, heat blued, tracing its arc around the dial right now, as well as the small heat blued chronograph minutes hand, which is about to be eclipsed by the seconds at 3 o'clock. You can see gorgeous, polished, skeletonized foy hands at center, and then a corresponding stick polished hand tracing constant seconds over a miniaturized sector chapter ring at 9 o'clock. A lot going on, but not crowded. And you can see at 6 o'clock an important feature of this dial, Bulletin d'Observatoire. What does that mean? Well, this watch and its RD56 movement, get an eyeful of that, is one of the few non-COSC chronometers I've ever seen. Certified by an observatory, but not in Switzerland, the great French Besançon Observatory. Certified this watch, which names Roger Dubuis personally as the regulator on its chronometer certificate. So you have a Besançon chronometer, an extreme rarity, but also a great horological tradition, as Besançon, along with Geneva and London, used to be one of the horological capitals of the world, so Roger Dubuis wanted to reach back into that tradition as part of his homage. So this watch not only comes with a fantastic dial, case, and movement combination, but the accessories, including that chronometer certificate, naming Roger Dubuis as the individual, the actual hands-on person who regulated this watch before it went to market, comes as part of this package. The watch also comes with an alternate solid caseback in white gold, because in the Geneva tradition you would put a solid caseback on the watch. The idea of a sapphire, which costs just a few bucks, is almost a disgrace in that tradition, where gold represents value and the finish isn't there for the admiration of the person. It's there as the mark of integrity by the original watchmaker, something to be appreciated only by other watchmakers operating the movement. Fortunately, in keeping with the times, Dubuis includes this gorgeous sapphire caseback as well, but you do have the option of fitting the original, which comes with the watch as another alternate from the Roger Dubuis manufacturer. In a sense, you can have it both ways. But personally, I would keep the movement visible. Now, every part of this watch is self-consciously stylized and gorgeous. Just look at the buckle on here. Roger Dubuis, blazoned in gorgeous characters, highly stylized, full white gold, single deployant. Everything about this watch is designed to be beautiful and traditional, and you don't get much more beautiful or traditional than a Geneva seal Le Mania Abauche. You can see the Geneva seal right here on the balance cock next to the black polished swan's neck regulator. The base plate also bears the Geneva seal, as well as a tight and regular perlage pattern that is gorgeous to inspect under the loupe. All of the wheels are circular grained with exceptional resolution. If you go under the loupe and you look at these wheels, the texture is regular, it's deep, and it's beautiful. All of the elements that reflect the original birth scars of the bridges, of the plates, of the levers have been removed. And on top of simply removing the burrs, the scratches, the scuffs, all of the levers have been straight grained with the traditional Geneva dressage. All of the bridges feature elements of linear Côte de Genève in the great tradition of the city, mirrored anglage, or polished edges of all metallic elements visible under the loupe, as well as polished screw heads with chamfered slots and the traditional column wheel, as per Geneva seal regulations, capped and polished. So the crenellated tower that you normally see to mark a column wheel on a movement, it's there, but it's capped by statute, and Geneva seal is a statutory standard, established to govern those watches built in the canton or city of Geneva. In order to meet the seal, you have to pass inspection by a state-appointed authority. It's been that way since 1886. It continues today, and this Roger Dubuis has been through that process. Just to give you an idea of how long it takes to make a watch like this watch comes with both the certificate from its Geneva seal certification, as well as its Besançon chronometer trials, and the period from which it started its certification for Geneva seal to the time it finished its certification as a Besançon chronometer spans the middle of the year 2000 to the end of the month of January in 2001. That's how long it took just to create the certifications and run the tests associated with those hallmarks. Everything about this watch is a work of art. This movement is the crown jewel, and so rarely does a watch put it all together, with perfect proportions, a gorgeous classical case, haute de gamme, manufacture, well, let's say not manufacture, but proprietary decoration on a traditional Le Mania Abauche. I would say that the decoration is all Roger Dubuis and probably represents 50% or more of the value of the Abauche. That's why I want to apply the term manufacture here, because everything of grand value here has been added by the Roger Dubuis manufacturer. The basic engineering, that's a grand story, and this is a movement that's been everywhere from the top of high society to the moon surface itself. So you've got great history in the past and great finish in the present to entertain you. And then that last element that this watch puts together with that bronzed salmon metallic dial, the traditional Breguet numerals, all those elements that add beauty, the gorgeous consonance between the bronze dial, that salmon color, and the brown alligator strap, and the final flourish of that deployant buckle and its unforgettable marquee. This is a special watch. It feels special on the wrist. It looks special. even sitting here under the iPhone, I'm looking at it through the flawed color, obviously, of my viewfinder, and it's scintillating even in that respect, even from that perspective. If you see it in high-resolution images on our website, I think that really takes it to the next level. That will persuade you, if you had any doubts, that this watch represents the highest tradition of high horology. It belongs up there with the Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Traditionnel Chronograph, your Patek Philippe 5070, your Breguet Classic Chronograph. Everything that represents the best of Geneva watchmaking and historic tradition is embodied in this Roger Dubuis Hommage Chronograph, and I cannot recommend highly enough that you go to our website and check it out, if only for the eye candy value. I'm Tim, and I got to admit, this is a watch I want.